felt heavy as lead. Naomi's gaze fell on her hands. No calluses, no scars, just smooth, unmarked skin. A geologist who had worked for 10 years would surely bear marks on their hands. Elena's hands looked as if she'd never done a day of field work, which meant she hadn't actually worked for a decade.
How long have you been awake, Elena?
Around 3 weeks. Drake had me go over the geological for the colony planet first. You handle biological sampling, and I take care of geological analysis. Our work goes hand in hand. What about the other scientists? Lee and Tashi from the biology team. Were they woken up early too? They're still in hibernation. Drake said just the two of us need to get things ready for now.
Naomi asked no further questions. The equipment in the research lab was already fully set up. It didn't need calibrating. Someone had been using it. All calibration markers had been locked. Debuffing was completed long ago. She pulled up the operation logs. Every entry revealed the past 7 days was logged, not a hint of guilt in Iran's account.
I'll grab the data pad. Make yourself at home here for a moment.
Naomi was now alone in the lab. She quickly pulled up the hibernation pod management system and checked the status of all 1,012 pods aboard the ship. Her eyes scanned the figures. All 1,000 colonists showed a 10-year hibernation period, along with the 12 crew members. Only her pod was marked for 1,000 years. She had been singled out. Her fingers hovered over the touchscreen for 3 seconds. Then she closed the interface, pretending nothing was amiss. Another of her mother's words echoed in her mind. Naomi, you've always been good at hiding your true feelings. Sometimes staying composed is more powerful than fighting. Your father's gone, but we're still here. From now on, we'll take care of each other. That was the first lesson she'd learned about keeping her emotions in check. When Elena returned with the data pad, Naomi was pretending to inspect a microscope, her demeanor as calm as still water. Naomi spent the next 3 days digging deep into the underlying code of the hibernation control system. On the third night, she claimed she was feeling unwell and headed toward the medical bay. Instead of going inside, she slipped around to the hibernation control room. The door required captain-level authorization to unlock. She stood before it, staring at the fingerprint scanner, her heart racing. She didn't have official access, but she had another way in. She pulled a small card from her pocket, a system maintenance key she'd stashed away secretly before the voyage began. She was the lead biologist, but she also held a minor in computer science alongside her doctorate. She knew the ship's operating system better than anyone else on board. She slotted the key into a spare port next to the scanner, and the door slid open. The control room was compact, fitted with a handful of screens and a single chair. She sat down and pulled up the hibernation wake-up logs. A long list of entries appeared. She filtered the results for one name and number, Pod 101, Naomi Chen. 6 months into the voyage. Back then, she'd shared meals with Drake and Elena in the ship's mess hall. She'd thought they were friends. She'd even told Elena, "My mother always said never let others decide your life for you. Your mother is very wise." Now she realized Elena had already been plotting against her even then. Naomi kept scrolling through the logs. The revised parameters extended her hibernation from 10 years to a full millennium. Her vital sign alert thresholds were set to the lowest level, guaranteeing she would never wake up prematurely. Her scheduled wake-up was set for just 3 days before the ship reached its destination, too late for her to uncover the scheme. She checked the logs for the other crew members. Drake had been roused 12 times, every few months, with his most recent wake-up 3 weeks prior. Elena had woken up 9 times, always for short periods. First Officer Victor had never been awakened. Neither had Engineer Lee. Only she, the captain, Elena, had their pod settings constantly adjusted. Drake and Elena had stayed awake all along. For 10 long years, they'd lived alone aboard this ship, adrift in the endless darkness of space. Meanwhile, she'd slept through the entire decade, completely oblivious. She leaned back in the chair and stared up at the ceiling, where a light fixture hummed softly. The sound felt bitterly ironic. The whole ship hummed along, its past locked in sleep, while just a handful stayed awake and in control. They'd woken her only to use her expertise. Once her work was done, they'd send her back to endless slumber. She sat up straight. Her hands stopped shaking. She got to work, rewriting the wake-up access permits for every hibernation pond. She set her own fingerprint as the sole authorization key. No longer the captain, no longer the ship's AI, only her. It took Naomi Athena, who currently holds wake-up authorization for the hibernation pods.
Per the latest system settings, wake-up authorizations Naomi Chen, lead biologist.
What if Naomi Chen is unable to grant authorization, for example, if she is unconscious or deceased?
The system has a backup authorization protocol. The secondary authorized user is Captain Drake Coulter.
Can the secondary authorization be changed?
That requires biometric verification from the primary authorized user.
I'm changing the secondary authorization now. Set it to First Officer Victor Zhang.
Please confirm your fingerprint.
Naomi pressed her finger to the scanner. Secondary authorization updated successfully. She let out a quiet sigh of relief. At the very least, Victor would be awakened if anything happened to her. Victor was an honest man. He would uncover the whole truth. What she didn't know was that Victor had already sensed something was wrong in his sleep. He would later say he'd suffered a string of nightmares during hibernation, figures moving through the darkness, and the sound of Naomi calling his name. Yet he couldn't rouse himself. 2 weeks later, Naomi ran into Victor in the corridor. She'd timed it perfectly. Victor had been woken up for his monthly routine medical checkup. She spoke in a casual tone.
First Officer, long time no see.
Victor rubbed his eyes, still fighting the dizziness from hibernation.
Naomi, you got woken up early too? Drake said they needed you to prep the research equipment ahead of time.
That's right. How have you been feeling lately?
I'm alright. Just been having strange dreams. It felt like someone was calling me, but I couldn't make out the voice. Probably just hibernation side effects.
Maybe not. First Officer, if you ever notice something out of the ordinary aboard this ship, what will you do?
What do you mean?
Nothing, just curious. You'll be late for your checkup. You should go. Victor walked away. Naomi stood in the corridor, watching his retreating finger. She couldn't spell everything out, but she'd planted a seed of doubt in his mind. Another 2 weeks passed, and Naomi finished the biosecurity report. When she handed the report over to Drake, the captain wore an unusually broad smile.
Excellent work, Naomi. This biosecurity assessment for the colony is incredibly thorough. This will make our landing operations run much more smoothly.
Thank you. What's my next assignment?
Your next task is to help me finalize the geological survey plans for the colony.
How long will that take? Around 2 months. After that, you can rest.
Rest. Naomi knew exactly what that word implied.
Understood. I'll help however I can.
Back in the research lab, she pulled up the security feed. Drake and Elena were talking in low voices. She turned up the audio.
2 months is more than enough time. Once she finishes the plans, Elena will take over her position for good. We've already changed the name on the biosecurity report to Elena's.
You altered the report's authorship?
It's done. The report now lists Elena Voss as the author. I'm also gradually transferring Naomi's system access over to her. Once she has her accident, Elena will become lead biologist. No one will ever find a trace of what we've done.
Naomi closed the feed. Her hands were steady, for her mind was completely calm now. First, she backed up all her research work, including the tampered biosecurity report, to a hidden location only she knew about. She embedded her fingerprint and audio evidence within the files. Second, she installed a timer in the hibernation control program. 3 years later, when the ship entered Cronus's orbit, every pod would open automatically. No authorization, no fingerprints required. Third, she activated a safety protocol for her own pod. If anyone forced the hatch open, the system would sound a ship-wide alarm and wake First Officer Victor immediately. The night she finished everything, Drake came to find her.
Naomi, how is the geological survey plan coming along?
70% is complete. Elena said we need 1 more month to finish.
That won't be necessary. We're moving to the next phase early.
What does that mean?
You've been looking run down, and high-intensity work isn't good for you right now. We've decided to send you back into hibernation early. We'll wake you once we reach the colony.
Early? I thought I had 2 more months of work ahead.
Plans have changed. Return to your hibernation pod tonight. We'll reset your sleep cycle. You'll wake up when we arrive at Cronus.
Very well. I'll gather my things. Naomi headed back to the hibernation bay. She walked slowly, but her mind raced. They planned to make their move tonight. Time was running out. She entered the control room, pulled up the system interface, and double-checked the settings for every pod. All 1,012 pods had her fingerprint as the primary access key, with Victor as the backup. The 3-year auto-wake timer was active. Everything was in place. She was about to leave when the door slid open. Elena stood in the doorway holding a syringe.
Naomi, this is a muscle relaxant to calm your body. It'll make the transition into hibernation smoother.
Naomi stared at the syringe. She knew for certain the liquid inside was no relaxant, but she had no choice. If she refused, they would force her into the pod by brute force.
I'll take it myself.
Naomi took the syringe and, in front of Elena, plunged the needle into her arm, injecting liquid into her bloodstream. A wave of dizziness washed over her, but she struggled to remain calm. Before coming here, she'd injected herself with an antidote stolen from the medical bay, designed to counteract this exact drug.
Thank you.
She walked toward her hibernation pod. She lay down inside, and the hatch slid shut slowly. Through the transparent hatch, she saw Elena standing outside with a strange expression. No triumph, no malice, just an unreadable mix of emotions. Perhaps doubt, or simply the play of light on her face. Naomi closed her eyes. She pressed her finger to the internal scanner, verifying all pod settings one final time. Then she let herself drift into darkness. 3 years later, the starship New Hope entered Kronos' orbit. Lights flickered on throughout the hibernation bay. All 1,012 pod hatches opened at the exact same time. Naomi opened her eyes. There was no dizziness, no physical weakness this time. She'd only slept for 3 years. Her body had only aged 3 years. She lifted her finger from the scanner and sat up. Coughs and groans echoed all around her as the other sleepers woke up. All 1,000 coloners and 12 crew members were awake. 2 people remained asleep. Drake and Elena. Their pod hatches stayed closed. Naomi walked over to their pods and looked down at them. They slept soundly, their faces calm, breathing steady. First Officer Victor walked over from a short distance away, rubbing his sleepy eyes.
Naomi? What's going on? Why is everyone awake all of a sudden?
We've arrived, Victor. Welcome to Kronos.
Why haven't the Captain Elena woken up?
Because they no longer have the authorization.
What are you talking about?
It means, starting today, only one person controls the wake-up systems for this entire ship. Drake froze the moment he saw Naomi's face. When he noticed the entire crew and colonists were awake, his expression from confusion to shock, then to raw fear.
Naomi? How are you?
How am I awake?
I only slept for 3 years, Drake, not 1,000. Your plan to lock me in hibernation for a millennium, steal my research position, and hand my work over to Elena was clever, but you forgot one crucial detail.
What detail?
I know this ship's systems far better than you do. Care to guess who set my fingerprint as the only wake-up key? Elena woke up in the pod beside him, took in the scene around her, and let out a scream. He looked at Drake, his eyes filled with disappointment.
We need to talk, Drake.
Drake opened his mouth, but no words came out. The official investigation lasted 3 days. Naomi handed over all her evidence to Victor. Audio recordings, system alteration logs, falsified report signatures, and the TAMP hibernation settings. Every piece of proof was clear and irrefutable. Drake and Elena were placed in confinement inside the captain's quarters. Victor took over as acting commander and called a ship-wide assembly.
Everyone, this is First Officer Victor. 6 months after launch, Captain Drake and Coulter and geologist Elena Voss conspired to alter the hibernation system. They extended astrophysicist Naomi Chin's sleep cycle from 10 years to 1,000, with the intent of stealing her position on the colony's research team. Thanks to Naomi's quick discovery and actions, their plot failed. Drake Coulter and Elena Voss will remain in restricted custody until we reach the colony, where they will be handed over to judicial authorities.
Murmurs spread through the crowd. Anger, disbelief, and whispers rippled across the room.
What about Naomi? How is she able to re-rate the ship's systems?
I hold a background in computer science. I know this starship's operating system better than anyone on board.
A round of applause broke out. Naomi did not smile.
Landing day on the colony planet arrived. Light from a red dwarf star, not the familiar sunlight of Earth, bathed the hull of the New Hope in a deep crimson glow. The colonists lined up and filed off the ship. Setting foot on Kronos' soil, Naomi was the last person to step off vessel. She stood on the gangplank, gazing out at the vast red plains, distant mountain ranges, and the alien starry sky above. This was her new home.
What are you thinking about?
I'm wondering where I'd be today if I hadn't glanced at the reflection on the captain's pod that day. Trapped in that pod, sleeping for another 997 years. Perhaps longer. Maybe I'd never have woken up at all.
Victor fell silent for a moment.
You've held Drake and Elena accountable, but they're still alive.
Many people think you should have left them trapped in hibernation indefinitely. That would have made me no better than them.
Staring into the distance.
I didn't come here to punish others. I came to build a new world. She stepped down the gangplank and planted her feet on Cronus's ground. A breeze swept over her, carrying the sharp scents of sulfur and minerals. It was strange, yet full of new life. She glanced back toward the starship. Behind a porthole, Drake and Elena pressed their faces to the glass, like creatures confined to an aquarium. She turned away and kept walking. Life on the colony was far from glamorous. The first group of settlers struggled with thin air, unknown microbes, and drastic temperature swings. Naomi spent her days out in the field collecting samples in a protective suit, analyzed data back in the lab, and slept in a simple container house at night. Victor became the interim administrator of the new colony. He was swamped with work every day, yet he always found time to check on Naomi's research. The microbial analysis of the soil samples is done. Most organisms are harmless, but one type of fungal spore poses a threat. It multiplies inside the human body and causes respiratory illnesses.
Can we deal with it?
Absolutely. We just need to install air filtration systems in residential areas and replace the filters on a regular basis.
Got it. I'll send the engineering team to get this set up right away. Naomi, what's your plan for Drake and Elena? We have to wait for the next communication window with Earth. The round trip will take 6 years.
Then we wait 6 years. The law isn't meant to be rushed, it's meant to be followed. Victor nodded and took his leave. The first batch of crops sprouted in the greenhouse. Naomi stood for a long time gazing at the tender green seedlings. These were life forms from Earth, taking root anew on an alien world. Small and fragile, yet brimming with hope. She knelt down and gently touched a young leaf with her fingertip. It trembled slightly, as if responding to her touch. She found Redpaw during a field mission. It was a small cat-like creature with an injured leg and sad, pleading eyes. She brought it back to the lab and nursed it back to health, and the little creature never left. It curled up at her feet, its tail flicking softly against her boots. "You like it here too, Redpaw?" That night, she had a dream. She was trapped inside her hibernation pod, unable to open the hatch, while laughter echoed from frantically, but no one heard her. When she woke up, her protective suit was soaked in cold sweat. Redpaw lay on her chest, purring loudly. She stroked its fur and gradually calmed down. Naomi received a letter delivered from the ship's confinement quarters. It was signed by Elena. She hesitated for a long while before breaking the seal. "Naomi, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just need you to know that Drake and I didn't hatch this plot after the launch. We made the plan back on Earth. That research position was supposed to be mine until the review changed their minds at the last minute. Drake said we could fix that mistake on the ship, and I agreed. I've regretted my choices ever since. Not when you uncovered the truth, but the moment you lay in the hibernation pod, closed your eyes, and calmly added that drug into your arm. You knew exactly what it was, yet you did it anyway. In that instant, I saw how much stronger you are than me. Not in skill, but in willpower. I won't bother you again. All I want to say is, I'm sorry." Naomi folded the letter and put it away in a drawer. She never wrote back. Redpaw jumped onto the desk and nuzzled her hand. She stroked its head and got back to work.
The colony marked the end of its first year. Cronus had no 4 seasons, only a permanent deep crimson sky overhead. Still, the settlers held a small celebration. They roasted potatoes grown in the greenhouse and cracked open a few cans of beer brought from the starship.
Victor stood on a makeshift platform with a beer mug in his hand.
"Everyone, this is our first year on this planet. There will be a second year, a 30th, 100 years to come. We put down roots here not to leave, but to stay."
Naomi sat in a corner drinking water, with Redpaw curled up at her feet. Her days were quiet and routine. Field sampling in the morning, data analysis in the afternoon, and report writing at night. Her team grew from 1 person to 5, and the younger colleagues called her Doctor.
What's on your mind?
I'm thinking about those days in the hibernation pod. What would my life be like if I hadn't glanced at that reflection on the glass?
You would have slept for 1,000 years. When you woke up, everyone would have grown old or passed away. You'd be all alone on this planet, no one to turn to.
I'd rather have what I have now. At least I have him.
You have all of us too.
3 years later, the communication link with Earth finally opened. The colony's scientists received an official reply from Earth. Earth's court had concluded the trial for Drake and Elena. They were convicted of fraud, abuse of authority, endangering human lives, and multiple other charges. Drake was sentenced to 20 years in custody, and Elena to 12. Due to the vast interstellar distance, They could not be transported back to Earth to serve their sentences. Their punishment would be carried out right here on the colony. Drake and Elena were confined permanently to the ship's isolation quarters. They would spend the rest of their lives trapped on the very starship they once commanded.
Aren't you going to see them off?
See who?
Drake and Elena. The isolation zone is officially sealed today. From now on, only delivery robots will bring them food. No one will visit them again.
I have no desire to go. I have nothing left to say to them. Victor nodded and left. Redpaw hopped onto the lab bench and nudged her hand with its nose. She leaned down and brushed her forehead against the little creature's head. 5 years after landing, the colony began to take shape as a proper town. A school opened its doors, enrolling the first children born on Kronos. They would later be known as the Kronos generation. Naomi became the colony's chief scientist, and her research team expanded from 5 members to more than a dozen. 5 years after landing, the colony began to take shape as a proper town. Her schedule was full, leaving her little time to think about Drake and Elena.
Dr. Chen, I've heard the story about the hibernation pod. Were you scared back then?
I was afraid, but I feared doing nothing even more.
If you could go back and do it all over again, would you make the same choices?
I'd act faster. I'd lock down the permissions sooner, expose their plot quicker, and start my new life without delay.
You're my role model.
Don't look up to others as role models. Learn to believe in yourself. 10 years on, the colony's population surpassed 5,000. The town flourished with schools, a hospital, markets, and even a small botanical garden filled with flowers and plants imported from Earth. A few strands of white hair appeared in Naomi's hair. Not many, but enough to remind her that time kept moving forward. Redpaw grew old, too. It no longer bounded around playfully and spent most of its days napping at her feet. Sometimes she would hold it in her arms and scratch its chin gently. It let out a deep rumbling purr, as if laughing. Victor retired from his post. He settled down on a small farm just outside town and grew potatoes. From time to time, he would drop by for tea and catch up on colony news with Naomi.
Naomi, do you ever have regrets? If you'd never woken up, or if you'd done nothing after waking up, would your life be easier now?
Easier? Perhaps, but that wouldn't have been my life. It would have been a life planned for me by someone else.
And this life now is truly yours?
It is. This is the life I chose for myself. Drake passed away. The news came from the ship's isolation quarters. He had died in his hibernation pod. The medical examiner ruled it natural causes, organ failure and cardiac arrest. He had already been in his 60s back on Earth, and more than a decade adrift in space had worn his body down completely. Naomi was feeding Redpaw when she heard the news. Her hand trembled, spilling food across the floor.
Dr. Chan?
I'm fine. Just slipped. She did not attend the funeral. Word spread that only Elena was present. That night, Naomi dreamed of Drake. Not the strong man he once was, but an elderly version with white hair, a hunched back, and dull eyes.
You won.
This isn't a victory, it's just the end. She woke up to Redpaw pupping on her chest. She stroked its fur and stared up at the ceiling. It was all over. Elena was released, not from a prison cell, but from the ship's isolation quarters. Her sentence had been served, yet she was forbidden to leave the starship. The Colonial Council voted to let her reside in the crew quarters, but barred her from residential areas and regular colony jobs. Naomi signed an official document approving Elena for limited work in the colony's medical team. The medical staff was short-handed, and Elena's medical knowledge could be put to good use. Naomi hesitated for a long time before putting her signature down.
Do you not hate her anymore?
Hate solves nothing, and we need more medical workers.
She will be grateful to you.
I don't need her gratitude. I just need her to do her job and help people. Elena moved into the ship's medical bay. Her daily work was handling remote medical consultations for the colony. No one visited her, no one spoke to her. She sat alone in the stark white room, typing away in front of her screen day after day. Naomi never went to see her. The colony held its 20th anniversary celebration. People sang and danced in the main square, marking 2 decades of human settlement on Kronos. Naomi stood at the edge of the crowd with Redpaw at her feet. The creature was extremely old now and could barely walk.
Aren't you joining the dance?
I've never learned how.
You could learn now.
I'm too old for new tricks. Naomi smiled.
You're still young by Kronos standards.
Naomi smiled. Wrinkles crinkled around her eyes. Yet her smile was warm and gentle. The young man ran over.
Dr. Chen, someone left a gift for you.
A gift? She opened the box and found a pair of small, simple silver earrings. Nothing fancy or expensive. They looked exactly like the pairs she bought at an airport gift shop when she was 16. There was no note, no name attached. She knew exactly who sent it. Only one person in the entire colony knew about those earrings from her youth. She closed the box, did not put the earrings on, slipped the box into her pocket, and continued watching the celebration. Redpaw passed away peacefully in Naomi's arms. It failed to wake up one morning. Naomi placed her hand on its chest and felt no heartbeat. She sat on the lab floor holding its body for a very long time.
Naomi?
Redpaw is gone.
I know. It lived a long life.
It was my very first friend on this planet.
You still have all of us.
She buried Redpaw on a small hillside behind the lab. From there, you could overlook the entire colony, the Red Plains and distant mountains. She planted a young tree beside the grave. Thank you for staying with me for 20 years, Redpaw. She did not cry. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she held them back. The handover ceremony was plain and simple. No flowers, no applause, just a signed document and a firm handshake. Dr. Chen, thank you for teaching me everything. No need to thank me. Just remember this: science exists to serve people, not just to collect data. I will keep that in mind. Naomi moved into a small house next to Victor's farm. She raised a few chickens and tended a vegetable garden. Each day she woke early to water plants, spread fertilizer, and gather eggs. Her days became quiet and unhurried. After 10 years working in the ship's medical bay, Elena requested a transfer to a remote observation outpost. She left the starship and the crowds behind, living alone in a tiny observatory, spending her days stargazing. Naomi occasionally saw her name on research reports, and that was the only connection between them. 50 years after settlement, I was 84 years old. My hair was completely white, and my back was stooped, yet my eyes remained sharp and bright. I spent each day sitting in a rocking chair on my porch, gazing out at the distant red plains and reminiscing about the past. Victor had passed away 3 years prior. She attended his funeral, standing at the back of the crowd, and shed no tears. She received another letter, mailed from the remote observatory. It was from Elena.
Naomi, I am leaving Cronus. An interstellar exploration team is recruiting volunteers to journey to far-off galaxies. I don't know if I'll ever return. Before I go, I have one thing to say. Thank you for not giving up on me. Not when you signed the papers to let me work in medical care, but for never seeking revenge against me.
Papers to let me work in medical care, but for never seeking revenge against me. You could have left me to rot in isolation, but you chose not to. You'll never know how much that means to me. She did not write back. She had no words to offer.
Elena departed Cronus. On the day the exploration vessel launched, Naomi stood on her porch and watched the sky. The rocket blazed a long trail of flame and vanished behind the dark red clouds. She lowered her head and went back to watering her flowers. The tree planted over Redpaw's grave had grown tall. Sometimes
not for a single thing. Naomi passed away peacefully in her sleep. There was no pain, no struggle. Just like Redpaw, she drifted off and never woke again. When the caregiver found her, a soft smile lingered on her face. Beside her hand lay a photograph. It was not a portrait of a person, but a view of Cornus's red soil with a single tree standing in the distance.
the very tree she had planted over Redpaw's grave. The colony held a grand funeral for her. People lined the streets to watch her coffin, draped with the colony's flag, roll slowly past. Victor's son delivered the eulogy,
Dr. Naomi Chen was one of the founding members of the Cronus colony. She uncovered the captain's conspiracy while trapped in hibernation, defending her own research position and upholding the integrity of the colony's scientific mission. She lived here for 70 years, trained our first generation of scientists, and wrote the Journal of Red Paw, which chronicled the life force of this planet. She is an inspiration to every one of us.
Her coffin was taken to the incinerator. Her ashes were scattered on the hillside behind the lab, right beside Red Paw's resting place. The wind blew, and the leaves of the old tree rustled softly. 100 years later, the Cronus Colonial History Museum opened a special exhibition hall dedicated to the life of Naomi Chen. Her original hibernation pod, Pod 1211 from the decommissioned starship New Hope, stood in the center of the exhibit.
An inscription was carved onto its surface. Official hibernation time, 10 years. Time she awaited, 1,000 years, and she prevailed.
Beside it lay the original manuscript of the Journal of Red Paw, along with the 2 pairs of silver earrings, the one she bought at 16, and the gift from Elena.
Dr. Naomi Chen once said, "I did not come here to punish others. I came to build a new world." And she kept her word.
Visitors stood before the rusted pod, picturing the woman who once lay inside, placing her finger on the scanner and rereading the fate of everyone aboard the ship.
300 years later, Cronus had grown into a key member of the Human Interstellar Federation. Skyscrapers towered across the cities, flying vehicles zipped through the skies, and spaceports bustled with constant activity. Few people still remembered the name Naomi Chen. Her story was printed in history textbooks, yet students memorized the facts only to forget them soon after. Only one place kept her memory alive: the old tree behind the original lab site. It had grown into a towering giant, its canopy spreading wide enough to block out the sky. A stone monument stood beneath it, engraved with, "Here lies Red Paw." Beside him rests Naomi Chen, the first settler of this land. Every spring, schoolchildren came here for field trips. They ate their lunches under the tree, while teachers told the old tale of the hibernation pod and a single fingerprint. Some listened closely, some dozed off. Others played on their devices, but the tree remained, and so did the story.
500 years later, an archaeological team from the Interstellar Federation unearthed a well-preserved hibernation pod in the ruins of the original settlement on Cronus.
This is Naomi Chen's hibernation pod.
Who's that?
Naomi Chen, the woman who exposed the captain's
After
plot on the
cleaning and
starship.
restoration,
She
they
rewrote the
spotted the number
hibernation
marked on
minutes
its
and made
site,
sure everyone
Pod
woke up on
1001.
time.
Oh, that old legend. It's no legend. It's real. Look here. Her fingerprint is still on the hatch.
They extracted the fingerprint and uploaded it to the federal database.
5 centuries later, Naomi Chen's fingerprint became a priceless artifact in the Interstellar Federation Museum.
1,000 years later, humans had established hundreds of colonies across the Milky Way galaxy. Cronus was now just an ordinary interstellar stopover. Travelers refueled, restocked supplies, and caught connecting flights before journeying further into the galaxy. Duty-free shops at the spaceport lined their shelves with souvenirs. The most popular item was a replica of a pair of small, simple silver earrings. The packaging read, "Earrings of Naomi Chen. Bought at age 16, worn for a lifetime. Yours to own."
No one knew who Naomi Chen was. They simply thought the earrings were pretty. A large portrait hung in the center of the main terminal hall. It depicted an elderly white-haired woman sitting in a porch rocking chair, holding a small cat-like creature in her arms. The plaque beneath it read, "Naomi Chen, founder of the Cronus colony. Scan the QR code to learn her story." Hardly anyone bothered to scan it.
2,000 years later, Cronus's atmosphere underwent drastic changes. All settlers evacuated the planet and relocated to more habitable star systems. Cities fell into ruin, tall buildings crumbled, and streets were buried under sand and dust. Only the ancient tree still stood. It had grown so massive its trunk required dozens of people linking arms to encircle it. The stone monument at its base was worn down by time, its inscriptions faded and hard to read. Yet the tree endured.